So hello everyone, my name is Ana Maria Chieni. I come from Romania, Timișoara, Temeshvar. And I'm moderating this section about easy-to-read and artificial intelligence, which is actually a nice continuation of what we talked about this morning before the lunch break. Before giving the floor to our speakers, for those of you who are not that familiar maybe with artificial intelligence, I would like to ask you a few questions. So please answer these questions by raising your hand. Who uses face recognition on their phone to use the phone? Face recognition. Okay, half, almost. Who has used Waze or Google Maps to get somewhere, or I don't know, to find a place? Almost everyone, thank you. Or who has used Google Translate to convert a message from one language to another? Yeah, most of us. Okay. So, well, all these technologies have something in common, obviously. They all use artificial intelligence, or in short, AI. So what is AI in a sentence? It's the ability of a machine to learn and think logically just like people do, and then to use that ability to perform various tasks. Yeah? So AI is all around us. We cannot escape it. We use it every day, whether we want it or not, whether we are aware of it or not. So AI, I can say, is an important tool designed to improve the world. In what follows, you will find out where AI and easy-to-read meet to make information more accessible. I would like to invite Vanessa Thiel to tell us about the SUMM project and their efforts to build an automatic translation tool. So a tool that translates text into easy language. Vanessa, the floor is yours. Thank you. I think you will need the computer. Yeah. Oops.
I can also do it from here if that's easier. Now? Can you guys hear me now? Yes. Perfect. Okay. So I will try to do this in English. Yeah. So first of all, hi. I'm Vanessa from SUMM, and our goal is to make the world understandable. First of all, I want to give you a short introduction about who we are, what we do, and especially why we do what we do. So what you can see here is our team as of right now. We are often introduced as the artificial intelligence rock stars from the Technical University of Munich, and that's exactly who we are. So we're a strong founding team. You see Flora, Nicholas, and myself there. But we have grown a little bit, so we have 6 more people helping us in our mission. And they help us in all different dimensions, from programming to design and language. And this mission of making the world understandable, it's actually a really personal one. So my co-founder Flora, her aunt, has a slight physical disability and couldn't go to school as long or intense as she should have. She's very interested in politics and everything going on, so she browses the internet a lot and tries to follow the news, but she often gets confused by long texts and has a lot of questions. And I brought an example where we probably all can really relate, which is the COVID rules. So if you're super lucky, for example, here in the case of the city of Hamburg, if you have a hard to understand text, there's a version of it in Easy-to-Read, what we've talked about a lot today. So in this case, you can click on the Leichte Sprache button, and then you will get the same information, but in Easy-to-Read. And this is, as we heard today as well, relevant not only for Flora's aunt, obviously, but in Germany alone there's more than 10 million people that rely on easy language in order to understand information. And that's why we are trying to help bring our technological knowledge into this process. So as I said, we're the AI rock stars, but what do we have to do with easy language? And we don't have anything to do with it. So the first step for us was we wanted to talk to the experts of easy language or Easy-to-Read. So we had the goal to find out where in this translation or simplification process technology can really help. So we talked to the experts, and we had the questions like, why aren't there more texts in Easy-to-Read right now? How does the translation process work? What challenges do you as translators face in this process? What tools are already being used in order to help you in this process? And then we found some experts, some of them are here now today, which is really nice to see, and they gave us some answers. So what did we find out in those interviews that we did? So we found out that the work with validators is really important. So you need to be able to check your translations with validators in order to find out whether your simplification process is actually working. We also found out that most of the translators work with Microsoft Word when they start doing their texts. We found out that correction tools are good for beginners, so to find out whether there's any long words still there, whether there's a passive, whether there's another sentence there that shouldn't be there. But most of the more advanced translators didn't actually work with them anymore. What translators do is look for explanations in past documents, so in Easy-to-Read or easy language. If there's a still hard to grasp concept, you have, let's say, I don't know, 3-5 sentences explaining what this is. And if a concept comes up more often and you know, oh, I did something with this already, they look in their past documents to find out how they explained it the last time. And even though they look for their explanations a lot, few of them have their own glossary where they save those explanations and can have them in a more accessible way. So this is the things that, or some of the things that we learned, the most important things that we learned. So that is why we're currently working on a tool to help this translation process. I brought it here so you can see it as like an example. So it's in Microsoft Word. You have it next to your text, and there's different options that you can do. So for example, if you want to generate a first draft of how your simplification can look like, you can use the assistant function. So you simply go over the text, click on translate, and then we generate a first draft of how your simplified version could look like. What you can also see here is we have other functions like a glossary that I just mentioned, where to help this other dimension, where we want to support the translators or the people who do the simplification to have an easier way of finding the concepts that they've already explained. And also a synonym finder if you want to really deep dive into the text or just find out whether there's any other maybe simpler words that you can use in your text. How do we do this? We've heard it in Anna Maria's introduction. So we use artificial intelligence. And she gave a few examples of what artificial intelligence is. And I'll try to give a more detailed explanation of the artificial intelligence that is used with text. So maybe first off, artificial intelligence. So a human can learn. That is why humans are called intelligent. Now, what is artificial intelligence? It is basically a computer program, and it's a computer program that, like humans, can learn. So the computer program can become better. As Anna Maria said some examples, there is artificial intelligence for pictures maybe, there's artificial intelligence for data like numbers, but there's also artificial intelligence for text. And what does learning for a computer program with text mean? It means that it can learn to understand context. So I brought an example, for example, the word bat. Depending on where you see this in a text, it can have different meanings. For example, it can mean an animal, what you see here. But it can also be used in a sports context, and it can mean something totally different. So artificial intelligence for text learns that one word can have different meanings, and it learns to understand this word with the words around it in order to create some understanding for the machine. How do we integrate validators in what we do right now? So I brought a picture here with one of the meetings that we did with one of the validator groups that we work with closely. So what we do is we ask for their advice, not only in the text that we generate, but also in how we create our tool. So we get some very nice insights there. We include their feedback on the texts. And also we encourage everyone that uses our tool or that works with our tool to get their text validated. Now, something that is very interesting probably for everyone here is what have we learned so far? I mean, it's a big goal, right? Making the world understandable, and artificial intelligence has its limitations, obviously. So what we have learned so far, a big learning is that artificial intelligence is a help for human intelligence. So it's not something that gets rid of human intelligence, but it's supposed to be a support vehicle for the human intelligence. So I brought one example here to just point out a few things that we've learned along the way. So what is still not working perfectly is that the context, as I just said, the word bat, even though a computer program can learn context, it can still be misinterpreted. So for example, in here, I hope you can see it, I brought a short example from this conference that we're at today. So what you can see is here, for example, a round table. It is put in line with the things that we look at this conference, but it's not something that we talk about, right? So a round table is not something that you talk about, but it's something where you maybe talk about stuff. So there, the context is misinterpreted. Or another thing that we still see a lot is that there are still hard to understand concepts in there. So if there's a word that still needs not only one sentence maybe to explain, but 3 or 4 sentences, then that is still in there. So here I also brought 2 examples. For example, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. This would definitely need some more explanation, or also the term artificial intelligence. Yeah, so this was just a short introduction about what we're trying to do, what problem we're trying to solve, where we're at right now. We love to get your feedback. So what we're learning with is just getting everyone's opinion, how a tool like this can help in the process, what it would need to be able to do in order to help in the process, and also maybe any concerns that you have. So yeah, feel free to give some feedback.
So thank you very much, Vanessa, for sharing your valuable work with us today. Are there any comments or questions for Vanessa? Okay, we should get the mic.
I think mine is plugged in.
Yeah. But till then, may I ask a question myself? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. Should I pass the mic to you first? Okay, I was closer, I guess. Okay, I have a simple question. For the artificial intelligence, is the data sent to your server for analysis and then returns the result, or is this like a self-contained plugin in the Word program?
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Okay, when you enter the data, the text, is the text sent to your server for analysis, or is this a self-contained solution? Meaning you don't, so it's like sent to the
Exactly,
server.
right now, yeah,
Okay.
it's a cloud-based solution, so that it's sent to our server and then sent back to you in a simplified way, yeah.
Yeah, okay, another quick question.
Yeah.
Let's say that you want to use this engine for other languages. What is the process, in short, for this?
Yeah,
Okay,
very
thank
good
you
question. So right now we focus on German. So we focus on easy language, so leichte Sprache. So right now there are no other languages there. Yeah, that is how. So currently you can only cooperate with us in German.
Yeah, thank you. That was my question too. So thanks.
Yeah.
Rocio?
Yes, I have a question, Vanessa. Actually, I have two. One thing I know from standard automatic translation in standard language is a lack of coherence in terminology. So do you experience this as well with your tool?
Actually, no.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Not in the cases that we have. So it definitely depends. If there's a very new context, for example, COVID, then sometimes it can happen that things aren't consistent enough in the translations, yes. But mostly it's actually very good with the words that are used, that are the same, yeah.
And what type of texts are you using at the moment? Is more like general, or is that more technical stuff?
No, we say we focus on general language, so not very technical terms, but like everyday language, yeah.
Okay, and maybe one additional confidentiality. I think that was Drago was. How do you keep things confidential? I mean, what happens?
Yeah. So right now we say that you shouldn't put any personally identifiable information in there, just so everything is super, super safe. But we're trying to work on something where the personally identified information, if there's something in the text, it's not needed for translation, right? Then that this doesn't leave your own server. But right now we say that you shouldn't.
Well, similar to the question now, we heard it before, garbage in, garbage out. So the sources you have, what would you say is your focus? You said general, but in terms of peer groups, in terms of context, because interpreting content in context always means you need a reference. So what is the material about? And yeah, that's the first question.
So you mean what the material from the model that we're using is from?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically, let's say, we build on something that has seen the internet and has seen a lot of books and has learned context from this. So it's a lot of different existing materials. So it's nothing specific, but it depends on how technical your input text is, as you said, garbage in, garbage out. So if there's a very specific topic in there that needs a lot of background knowledge, so like word knowledge, then this is obviously harder to do because it's not in the language itself, if you know what I mean, but it's a very broad set of topics that are in there.
And do you analyze what's in the web? In terms of, do you have do you browse through what's happening in the internet and how people use certain topics, how they speak? Do you have this kind of analysis also?
From, you mean just existing texts, not necessarily in easy language, but just existing?
Existing, because you know the algo speech shows that people talk differently because they already know that there is censorship in TikTok and any other language, so they use different words in order to hide their private topics. So you need to cope with this
that is a very good point, yeah.
Where's the reference
Yeah.
you use?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. So we're trying to update, obviously, but this is not a thing that we focused on yet, but it's a very good point, yeah, that language itself changes, right? Yeah, yeah, definitely.
If I use your tool and I use it to correct my texts, does the AI learn from my corrections as well?
Yeah, so if you decide to, then yes. So if you decide to tell us what you think is still wrong with the text, then yes. But if you don't, then no.
Okay, so everything I do inside, and then I give you the permission, you can use it to train it further. Okay.
Because then it also becomes better for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should take two more questions then.
Yes. What are your next steps developing your tool?
Yeah.
I mean, you have the glossaries, the synonyms, the assistant.
Sorry?
Yeah, you have the glossary, the synonyms, the assistant. But what are the next steps? Where are you focusing your efforts next?
Yeah, and becoming better in what we've built so far. So we're still at the beginning, and we see, I brought some of the examples that are still not working, right? So we're trying to just get better at the things that we found out so far, rather than like doing more and more stuff.
So consolidating what you
Yeah.
have developed.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's also why we focus on German right now, because like this is where we are the experts as well. So yeah.
And the glossary, what are your sources?
So you fill it yourself, actually. So we show the hierarchy, which is not too great, to show you how it could look like if you have your own glossary, but you fill it yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think Inga.
I will speak in German.
I don't have my earset here.
Okay,
Never
so
mind.
no, then I speak in English, no problem. At the beginning, you showed the webpage of Hamburg, the city of Hamburg. So this is an automatic translation with SUMM, with
No.
you. No, it was just an example,
Yeah.
because it was interesting, because it says on the top that it's automatic translated.
The example here, no.
One page about COVID on the page of the city of Hamburg, not with you.
You mean, yeah. So we're working with Hamburg, yes, but the
Okay.
example that I showed here.
No, but it wasn't, okay.
Yeah.
And is there any post-editing done?
Yeah, definitely. So
Okay.
as I said, it's a support tool, right?
Yeah.
So they have people inside of the city of Hamburg that have done courses in easy language, so they do post-editing in there.
And just a short question. On your webpage, you have also an automatic translated text, and it's really good. And I was surprised, because it's there since the beginning, no? When your AI, wasn't so good. You made a post-editing too with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I think you should say that.
I think it says somewhere, but maybe we should have it more.
Because it's
more
about
yeah.
like publicity. Well, with our AI, we can make easy language for everybody. I think you should say more
prominently that it's just
that it's
yeah.
That's
Yeah. Thank you very much, Vanessa.
Thank you,
once
guys.
again. And thank you for your questions. I would now like to invite Paul Meyer from Capito to tell us about the AI tool they have developed to translate text into easy-to-read. Just a second. Okay.
So thank you very much for having us here. Well, as you just were told, my name is Paul from Capito. I'm the CDO of the company, the Chief Digital Officer, and at the moment also responsible for sales and marketing, production and software development. And I will shortly refer to what we were discussing here today, I think, rather than just giving my company pitch, because some of you might know Capito already, and some of the things we do are quite similar to what SUMM AI is doing. We call ourselves a specialist for plain language because we're 21 years old. We co-founded the network of Easy Language, das Netzwerk leichte Sprache, and we have offices, like 15 offices actually, in Germany, Switzerland and Austria. And this number might be outdated. We have done more than 7,000 projects in the field of easy-to-read language. Currently, we do approximately about 1,000 projects a year. And same as you've heard before a couple of times, we have the opinion that easy-to-read language must be everywhere. We have so many different cases of user-oriented product design. We do not have a case of user-oriented language. And with artificial intelligence, we have a mean to this end. We can really make this happen. And as you can see with these icons, we are confident enough that easy-to-understand information shall be in each and every content management system you have out there. Do not think just about a ticket automat. Think about your Alexa, your data goggles that everybody is developing right now, which still look terrible, but we will use them sooner or later. But we must be careful with AI. We were just having a brief and very good introduction by the colleagues of SUMM AI about what AI really is, and I would like to add something. AI is data, and it's still just data, nothing else. When people learn that machine learning algorithms or deep learning algorithms are replicating the mind of the human being, it's not really perfectly replicating it. It's a very, very simple version of it. And what those machine learning algorithms do, they learn patterns. And patterns is the thing that they're going to replicate. So they do not change themselves. They cannot change the code. There's just some experiments on that, and they're very weak, and that's not really happening and will not happen in our lifetime. So don't be scared about AI. It's still just statistics and data. But still be careful. Using AI is not a project, it's a process. It's a changing of a business model. It's a changing of everything what you do if you want to integrate that in your processes or in your company, in your organization. Some things, if you would ever like to do an AI project by yourself, there's a difference between data. We are in a very good position to do artificial intelligence text simplification because we have gathered 21 years quite high qualitative text data. Because Capito has a TÜV certified system in which we simplify complex information. We have a criteria set for 3 different easy-to-understand language levels. And everything that we do with our 600 target group representatives and our 120 editors is done in the same way. So our data is quite consistent. Therefore, the patterns are quite easy to identify for machine learning algorithms. And what is most important, we have a data value chain. We have this 700 people, these 15 offices that we have. So constantly we're going to produce more data, and that's why something that's called data superior. That's why we can do this. But I often see projects out there done by universities, done by NGOs, done by companies, with whatever kind of software provider, and they tell them, yeah, well, we have an AI solution for you here. But that doesn't work. AI is, as I said, a process. You need to have constant inflow of data. Data is getting outdated, as we just heard. Language data is changing quite fastly and rapidly. Just think about how the youth is talking here in the inner city. It's just different to what I was talking when I was 15. And therefore, don't underestimate the efforts of AI. Always use rule-based algorithms first before you use AI. That is what every software developer will tell you. And this is also why we have about 50 assisting rule-based algorithms next to our machine learning algorithms in our system. So that was just a little bit of an excuse. This I just mentioned. Cannot state it often enough. If you do not have a source of data and you try to do artificial intelligence in your company, and it doesn't matter how big your company is, it is like trying to set up an oil refinery just with one tanker of oil. That will not work. So, this is actually my main argument for all those funding and research partners that we have. And just for a second, we were talking about languages there. We are in an EU Commission, EU Innovation Council project where they gave us the order to do French and Spanish and English as well, and set up actually offices there in order to create high-level training data. We are in the biggest accessibility science project in the Swiss state ever funded, where we also have the order to do Italian for some Italian people here, probably. And of course, we have done all the research and science programs that we have in Austria, where we originated. We have about 30 research and development partners in 7 countries, lots of them coming from the social sector, from the NGO sector, and those are just the first 3 actually, who supported us and actually bought into our development before we even started because they trusted us, which is nice of them, actually. But yeah, 1,000 projects, customers everywhere. And just to restate what was said here today, this is but a drop in the ocean. It's still not enough. It doesn't work that way. Simplifying documents that we become is always a project. It's always something that makes effort. And there is so much more content. I just think I told someone here in this room today the story that a ministry in Austria produces content worth 6 million euros per year. And maybe 30,000 euros or 50,000 euros is is spent on easy-to-read information out of that. And that's not enough. That's not an accessible world. And with the solutions that we create, we want to change that. And another warning, or another information that I want to give out to this. We create an AI solution, something that can simplify, and we actually do 2 use cases. We do one use case like you have it in your Microsoft Word, where we have assistance on the go while you write. You write in your Word, you stop for a little second, it's getting sent to our service, by the way, and there it will be analyzed and gives you the feedback, oh, watch out, this might not be understandable for the target group or the language level you've chosen. And we have the Google Translate use case, where we can totally simplify a whole existing text. But these use cases, these solutions, are by themselves just technology. You need to make them interoperable. You need to be there where the content is getting created. And that's why we have showcases on our website, but that's also why it is a SaaS, a software as a service offer for everybody, with a very high quality API, access programming interface, which can be used by other content management programs in order to integrate Capito solutions into their content management system, because you must be there where the people write. One click further is already too far. They will not use it. And yeah, as I just said, we have these 2 use cases, assistance and automation, automatic simplification. And we can combine them, obviously, for the post-editing. And the post-editing will be there for all of our lifetimes. Be honest with that. This will not be a 100% clear automatic text simplification while we are still in offices. Maybe some are 15 here? No, nobody. No, it will not happen, actually. If you want to publish something, I give you another example. If you use Google Translate to do the English version of your thesis, you hopefully will fail on your university, because that doesn't work. It doesn't work. It makes so many mistakes. And they have billions of data sets in order to train on and still make mistakes. Anyway, we can combine our two use cases in order to do automatic simplification of existing text and then use the assistant software in order to post-edit it. Or we can use it while you're just creating a new text. By the way, the engagement of writers is higher when they produce their initial text. They rather have assistants there than later simplifying the whole text, because that's the moment when they mostly engage with their text. And finally, our roadmap, in weeks from now, we're going to introduce browser add-ons. Browser add-ons are actually quite a complicated thing. You can download it via our website, and then you integrate it in your web browser. Safari, Firefox, Edge, Chrome, whatever you want. And then whenever you enter a text field, like the CMS backend or console actually of your website, the add-on recognizes that you just type in text and starts to analyze it, and helps you on the go to make a barrier-free text, which is quite cool and quite complicated because every text file is a different editor and different software, so it's terrible. But in hopefully 2 weeks we're going to be finished. We're going to do something pretty similar in Microsoft Office, actually, an Office plugin, which is also something, and SUMM, I think you know how that is. Microsoft is a world by itself, and a very ancient world. And in March we will also present something like an English beta version. So we start to open with English software solutions, more and more the English market. We have already lots of business in the English-speaking countries, but yeah, software solution beta version will come in March. French beta will come in June, hopefully. I have still some challenges there, because I do not speak the language actually. And then by the end of next year, we're going to also have a direct WordPress plugin. Why do we do that? Because there's a marketplace, and we need to test that. And the EU Commission told us you need to test that, because you must make a business case out of that. Which is something that I want to end with, actually, business cases / innovation. And innovation you have once you have a self-sustaining solution on the market. And you should never underestimate it. And we are here on a university, so I dare to say that. You should never underestimate how far and how unequally distributed the distances between technical readiness levels are. Do you know this kind of concept? So you have 9 technical readiness levels, from an idea to a finished innovation on the market. And in between there's something like the first prototype and, I don't know, the go-to-market prototype and so on. 9 steps. And it is, in the world of software services, in the world of whatever you use on your smartphone, how do you say, a limited liable integration, something that works and shows a case that can be done in a reasonable effort. But creating something GDPR conform that a state finance ministry would integrate into their system because of their 120 pages long software bias guidelines and so on, that's a terrible long way to do. And often it's getting underestimated that this is actually the hard work. So I want to emphasize on something. In order to get this whole question of barrier-free, accessible internet further, we need to cooperate often, whenever we can, because the way in order to really get it done, to get it on the ground, is insanely long. And before, we give another example, just one and then I'll stop. We were talking about whatever you have as guidelines for an accessible website. There was something missing. One of the most important things, I mentioned it today again, is use what is there and what is best. So there are already solutions out there for your website, for accessibility, plenty. Check out Zero Project, for instance, their catalog. There are plenty of very cool solutions already. In German we have a saying, do not try to reinvent the wheel, use what is there. I had once, and I told the story today a couple of times, I once had the question on my desk to make an accessible video platform. And I was given the answer, well, go to YouTube. What the hell? They invested hundreds of millions in creating an accessible video platform. So if you need it on your website, integrate YouTube. They will do it better than you could ever do if you do not invest, I don't know, $500 million. So that's pretty much everything from my side. And if you have questions, please do not hesitate.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Paul. So obviously the Capito technology is truly impressive. So if there are comments or questions.
Ich habe es, glaube ich, ich werde das umsetzen.
Weiß ich nicht, ob wir uns besser Deutsch unterhalten oder better in English. So you mentioned the two types of algorithms. You have a rule-based and pattern-based. The rule-based, could you explain a bit more about the rules you use? Do you have a taxonomy behind? Do you have, in terms of rules, best practices you use in your data? What would you suggest where to start with? That's behind my question, because as you said, it's a long road. You have a lot of data, you have a lot of experience, but what is the focus you would suggest by looking at your rules and your data?
Well, thank you. Very good question, actually. Our Capito rule or criteria catalog, our rules, we set them up in an initial state 20 years ago. And from then on, we constantly further develop them. All this with target group representatives, with validators, and every year we have a quality control group in our network. Every year they make it a little bit better. So that's experience of 20 years when it comes to German. Now we are in several Erasmus projects, several science projects in different countries where we go to universities and specialists actually, and who do the next language version of our criteria catalog, but then we go to target group representatives in these very countries and have texts produced by professionals who we educate, and then we test the results and we create data together with the criteria. When we come to the rule-based checking with computer linguists, we take this criteria as a basis and then we make computer linguistic checks. And I'm like, there are more complicated ones and there are easier ones. Some might be just a blacklist, but one that is very complicated and often underestimated is, in German it's Schachtelsätze, it's claused sentences. That's a very complicated thing. And so there might be like 2 pages of algorithms just checking if there are too many claused sentences.
Paul, I'm not sure if everybody, the way I understand Capito is you use this language levels A1, A2, B1 from the European framework for languages. I'm not sure if all of us know this. So maybe you can explain a little bit why you do it. And the question behind this is also, can you tell us about the difficulties of doing this? Because it can't, or maybe it's just as easy. You just push the button and plop, suddenly A1 turns to B1, and the quality is just the same. So maybe.
Well, first of all, why do we do 3 different levels of easy to understand language? Klaus Miesenberger mentioned it actually. People want to have their individual language level. So you do not want to have a too easy level when you're not challenged by it, or when you feel fooled somehow. And on the other side, you needed different language levels and different cases. So in our reality, their understanding is closely linked with our experience. And if I have somebody with learning difficulties in one of our peer groups, and she or him are total fans of soccer, they will understand the technical terms of soccer because they invested in that, and that's what they like. So they will, in soccer news, they can read a higher language level, but in anything else, like, I don't know, cultural news, might not be the case. So we need target group and use case oriented language levels, and this is why we separated it. People should be able to choose. So we have, like, similar thing, we also have a content app where you have just a QR code, and if you have, for example, a museum or a newsletter or an article, you can scan the QR code, and online it's just a link, but you can scan it, and then you can choose your individual language level that fits you best, and that it's coming from this. And in our everyday business with our editors and our target group representatives, of course we would love for every customer that they tell us, yeah, please make it in all free, easy to understand language levels. And to be honest, that's not really the case all the time. That quite often we do one or two, and customers say, well, we do not have the funds to do all free language levels. And automation and artificial intelligence can help with that, because with this we can make it accessible enough, and the first barrier is the cash barrier. So with this we can make it affordable enough in order to make it happen.
And allow me just 2 small questions. Are you thinking into going into interlingual translation at a certain point? Maybe you do, or no, you're not? Okay.
No. First factor for that is data. Second is that from a computer linguistic perspective, it's a little bit of a different use case. And it's an interesting one. I hope I can shortly explain it. In 99% of all cases when you transfer from English to German, for instance, you can take one English sentence and make out one German sentence out of it. When we do text simplification, in 99% of all cases, that's not the case. You can have one complicated sentence, and it might end up being 3 to 5 easy to understand sentences, and the other way around, by the way. So this is what you meant when you were talking about attention, or in a context, actually. We have a different approach, a bigger approach, more complex approach, and that could help in somehow, but not if we do not, that could help with transferring into other languages, but not if you do not have the same amount of data as the big ones have, and they have more data than we could ever gather now, because they gathered the data in a time when the internet was ruleless. So they still have immense amounts of data.
Okay, and just because today the message often is not only about text simplification. So how do you implement the layout part of it in your system? And that's my
the layout?
The layout. The layout.
Okay.
That's my last question.
It depends a little bit if you do it rule-based or if you do it with machine learning. Our machine learning algorithms are constantly further developed, and they start to learn those kind of design elements, like lists, for instance, or what headlines and so on. So that's getting better and better. And some things are just different services. The thing I was mentioning today with where you need to break the line, that's a different service and a different approach. So that's one software service by itself. And at the moment, actually, you can integrate it, because, of course, if they give the AI this element, this parameter of there's a return, soft or hard return, and it learns it, it can replicate it. So then it's inherent in the model. But in many cases, especially if you have the website case, it's better to have an additional service, which is then, with a certain percentage solving that.
Okay, so one part is the text simplification, and then on top Thank you. The other layer is the layout, which is done separately.
Very often in software you have a cascade of different services which do something with data. So you can always imagine there's this one little helper who is doing that with the text, and there's the next little helper who is doing the next thing, and the next, and the next. And hopefully all servers have a performance in such a way that you do not feel it, and it just happens in between half a second. And so that's not only we who are doing that, pretty much the whole software world is a combination of software as a service services who are combined in milliseconds.
I use my power for the microphone to ask my last question. What are the criteria for your customer segmentation? You talked about 3 levels in language. Does it also mean in terms of topics, as soccer might be, in terms of discourses, or does it even go further beyond saying what are the platforms you use and the context, and even call to action in the metadata? So all the metadata you got, which one you use for your segmentation?
Metadata. At the moment, we have, it isn't important to extract the topic out of a text for us for processing. So if you send us a text and you want it automatically translated, we will analyze to what kind of topic, we have 7 topics identified to us, it belongs. And this we do because we are, and we always very, very honest with that, we have had business in the past in the social sector, in the governmental sector. But again, if the cultural department of your trusted newspaper is coming to us and wants to automatically simplify news on Opera, that will not happen. That will not work. We need to do fine-tuning. And I want to know how much fine-tuning I need to do. Therefore, I map that down and create an understandability for myself how much learning data I would need to get a decent result for the next topic, so to say. And that's just something that is very common in all trustworthy artificial intelligence services, that those people will tell you, we have a solution, but we need data and we need training before it really could work. We as Austrians, by the way, know that quite well, because often those solutions are coming from Germany and they do not understand Austrian German. So often we need to fine-tuning there.
Okay, thank you very much for answering the question that I wanted to ask, but Rocio gave the very question I wanted to ask. But we have another one. What is the percentage of the validators that you employ?
Pardon? The percentage?
Percentage of validators that you employ in the overall employment base of your company.
Well, they're mainly on contract basis, actually, and it differs. So we had in the last year 370, I think, active, and in the year before more than 600, and partly because of Corona coordination, so to say, but it's pretty much around that. So I guess this year we're going to end up with 600 again, because it's easier to coordinate, and we have approximately 120 editors. I think it must be a little bit more, those are numbers from last year, and lots of offices hired this year. Maybe it could be 130 already. But those are actually all stuff, so there are organization, bookkeepings, and so on, there's like, that's...
Any full-time employment?
Couldn't tell you, do not know it by heart, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions?
Und jetzt spreche ich Deutsch.
Yeah, okay. Now I have the headset. Thank you.
Okay. Puh, mein Kopf. Also, erste Frage. Du hast gesagt, es gibt QR-Codes zum Einscannen und dann kann ich zum Beispiel im Museum oder egal wo das einscannen und die Texte in verschiedenen Niveaus lesen. Das ist, was es jetzt schon gibt für Übersetzung von Capito, richtig? Das hat jetzt nichts mit der KI zu tun.
Exactly, that's a different kind of app. That's a content app. That's actually something that we started, I think 18 or something, 17, 18, 19 when I came in. We made it a little bit newer. And this is coming exactly from the use cases we were discussing before, that people can choose. That think about a museum very often do not have the space for all the descriptions that the scientific people in the museum would like to have there, and lots of people do not ever read it. So put there a little QR code and people can decide on the language level and actually on the language, because it can use infinite languages. And also you can integrate a link to your sign language video. And it reads out aloud quite understandable because we use the Google AI to read it out aloud. This one is the best one to understand for us that we can reach. And so this is another app, another use case, by the way, to bring those products that we have directly to the people where they use it. I often tell the story when it comes to this kind of thing that we had plenty of projects in the past where we were doing an accessible, easy to understand guideline, for instance, for, I don't know, a city. And then they produce it and they print it, which is costly nowadays especially. And they print it and then they have it there in their inclusional office or in their multicultural office or in their new citizens office. And they have the easy to understand version, they're printed somewhere. And the first step of exclusion is when somebody needs to ask, can I please get the easy to understand version? Therefore, nobody does it. And if you have one version and you have little QR codes in there where anonymously the people can choose the individual language level, it's very much more accessible. This is coming from that.
Ja, wenn ich das beherrsche, also ich müsste wahrscheinlich eine einfache Erklärung haben, wie ich das bediene, aber an sich hast du recht. Also die Hürde, ich muss sagen, ich brauche leichte Sprache, fällt weg. Das kann ich als freiberufliche Übersetzerin sagen, ich habe jetzt ein Museum, das möchte einen Text in leichter Sprache, ich möchte eure App, wie nennt man sie?
Capito-App.
Die Capito-App nutzen und mitverkaufen, weil in diesem Museum nun kein Platz ist oder weil ich total davon überzeugt bin? Oder ist das nur für Capito?
Es ist im Grunde, sorry, that was German. It's actually made for Capito and Capito partners.
Dolmetscher.
But you just go to your next Capito office and arrange it, because impact first. So we are not closing doors to anybody. So if you have a case, knock on the next Capito office. Hopefully one is close.
Es gibt überall Capito. Super, das war die Frage zu der App. Und das Zweite ist, genau, die KI. Ihr habt gezeigt, es gibt verschiedene Stufen. Wenn ich das richtig sehe, dieser Browser, ja, da unten, weiter unten. Weiter. Also was ja euer Plan, der Pfeil nach unten.
Ja.
Genau. Also das Add-on für den Browser richtet sich an NutzerInnen, richtig?
No, people who write text. It's also the support use case. I mean, it doesn't matter. So if you produce text and you're in a browser, if you do, for instance, what I have in my, also, or what I never forget with this use case, think about all those politicians that we have out there. And think about all those politicians who fail to explain to us the climate change catastrophe that we are facing. And they're doing that for 100 years. They cannot do it. Still, look out there. Maybe in Germany you have one politician who can do it actually. But they post every day not understandable postings on social media. And with this browser add-on, they have an assistance all the time, everywhere, in order to make those postings understandable. And it works everywhere where you edit text in your web browser. And by the way, that is where the most text is getting created. That's why we publish them first. Second is Word.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much. We are running late. A big round of applause.